Hey, welcome to another episode of Anime versus Manga. This week we're gonna cover episodes 2 and 3. Like I said before, I'm playing it by ear on how many episodes I'm gonna cover in each video, but we're doing 2 this week because episode 2 has some pretty significant stuff in it, and episode 3 is not as discussion worthy. So yeah. Oh, let's do it. Let's start the video. Yay! 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 There's some little changes to this first scene, which adapts chapter 19 of the manga. For instance, this little exchange between Nekazaki and Hachimitsu in the anime is just a little background gag in the manga. Another small change is the boys' team is playing soccer in the anime while it's softball in the manga, which actually leads into our next difference. The scene of Shikimori and Nekazaki watching the soccer game is an anime original. It doesn't even exist as a softball variant in the manga. It goes straight from the pep talk from Izumi in the classroom to the boys looking defeated after they lose the softball game. So, why does this soccer scene exist, aside from to give us diabetes from Shikimori sending Izumi good vibes? Well, that's as good a reason as any for me. It's actually set up to insert one of the earlier chapters into this later point in the story. The nurse's office scene! This is from chapter 11 of the manga, and was its own self-contained little story. So, similar consequences lead to this in both the anime and the manga, but of course it happens at a completely different moment in time. I really like how they handled inserting the earlier chapters rather than just ignoring them. Not that that was even an option if it meant getting rid of this moment here. Here, we have another anime original portion of the episode, but despite that, it brings a relatively big change with a very early introduction of the character Kamiya. Just for reference, this scene would take place somewhere in the middle of chapter 19 if it were in the manga. But Kamiya isn't even introduced in the manga until chapter 39. Now, I won't put that on screen because spoilers. However, I do like this change as it will be a more gradual introduction to this character in the anime, where in the manga her introduction is pretty sudden. Now, there isn't much to talk about here because I've already mentioned the change with Kamiya's introduction, and that is primarily the only thing different in the whole volleyball tournament scene. Though, perhaps interesting to mention that the manga doesn't actually have a volleyball game after Shikimori puts her hair up and activates Chad mode. It just goes straight to the celebration of winning the game. Luckily, in the anime we get to see her kick some ass at volleyball. For the next change, we skip past the classroom celebration after the tournament and go right to Shikimori being talk of the school. Everything is basically the same until we get to the ball coming through the window and Inuzuka taking the hit for Izumi. This is another instance of the violence being toned down in the anime, because someone could have straight up died with what happened in the manga. Instead of a volleyball coming through the open window and smacking Inuzuka in the face, we get a fucking baseball shattering the window with the giant shards of glass flying everywhere. I mean, seriously, it's a miracle no one was seriously wounded. I mean, not that a baseball hitting your cheek couldn't knock a few teeth loose or anything. I think that this moment from the opening may be a reference to what originally happened in the manga, Sans the Glass. So aside from Inuzuka and Izumi almost suffering acute glass shard death, not much else here is different. Izumi's fall down the stairs does have an extra little detail to it in the manga though. One last thing I noticed, both here and in the previous chapter, is sometimes the art is flipped. It really has no bearing on anything, I just thought it was interesting and kinda wonder why the studio decided to flip some of the art like this. Let me know if there's an actual reason for this or if it's just an artistic choice. Now, before I get into episode 3, I wanted to talk to you about what kind of manga reader I am, because it's kind of important for the information I'm going to give you. I only read physical releases of manga. I don't like reading it digitally. so what this means is I'm only caught up with the current English releases of whatever series I'm talking about. In this case, I've only read the first 9 volumes of Shikimori, so when I tell you that something is an anime original, I'm working on the assumption that they probably wouldn't pull something from somewhere beyond volume 9 to put into season 1. Now, I could be totally wrong about that because the series has been putting events that happen a couple volumes ahead in earlier places, just as they've been pulling stuff from earlier and putting it in later places. Just wanted to let you guys know that in the event that I get something wrong. Okay, episode 3. Originally I thought this was going to be pretty short because like the first 2/3 of this episode is mostly original to the anime, but after writing the script, it looks to be about as long as episode 2. So while it is mostly original, it is still based on a 4-page chapter from the manga. You heard that right. 4 pages adapted into almost an entire episode. Okay, all of it is original to the anime. The tickets, Izumi planning for his misfortune with his backpack and stuff, Shikimori figuring out what to wear. But wait! I think that this scene of Shikimori deciding what to wear and her brother being introduced is a sort of weird little adaptation of the first 2 pages of the bonus story from volume 6. The way she's laying on her bed is similar, though in the anime she's reading a magazine instead of looking at her phone, and also the way she looks through her closet is very similar to this panel from the manga, but they diverge immediately after that. In the anime it ends after her brother leaves, but in the manga it's a full chapter where she goes on a shopping trip with her brother. Also, just like the anime, this is the formal introduction of her brother in the manga, though we have seen the back of his head in a previous chapter. Okay, back to fast forwarding. Izumi walking to meet Shikimori and the train ride to the movie theater, you guessed it, anime original. There is actually a decent amount added to the parts that are actually in the manga though. For instance, Izumi's effort to find out more about Shikimori by asking her what movie she wants to see, since he's always the one making up all the plans, is original to the anime. Another very small change is Shikimori showing the tweet to Izumi talking about how scary the movie is. In the manga, he just remembers seeing this tweet himself earlier on. The movie they're going to see in the manga is relatively nondescript. The tweet has no detail, and we only get one panel showing what it is they're watching. Now this may be a reference to some Japanese horror film I'm unaware of, I don't really know. But in the anime, the movie is obviously parroting it. We also get a much more detailed illustration in the anime of Izumi's imagination where he thinks he's going to be comforting Shikimori during the movie. But we all know how that goes. This whole bit where Izumi wants to treat Shikimori at the cafe, him losing his wallet, and them finally meeting up with Izumi's parents is all original to the anime, but serves as a nice segue to how they adapted the next couple chapters. Alright, so we're finally done with the 4 pages of chapter 4 being turned into an epic, and now we move into the adaptation of chapters 16 and 17 to finish the episode out. So overall, this whole part where they're eating at Izumi's house is more or less the same except for one point. The reason for this dinner in the manga is because it's Izumi's birthday, so there's a decent amount of dialogue involving it being his birthday that for obvious reasons isn't in the anime. A good example of this is this sweet moment here between Shikimori and Izumi's mother that takes place before their more serious talk that's in the next chapter. So the next couple changes take place after Izumi wakes up and walks Shikimori home. In the anime, we get this little glimpse of Izumi's mother seeing her son as a small child as he's getting ready to leave, symbolizing how much he's grown. In the manga, we don't get a panel of her seeing him small or anything for this bit. It's just a close-up on her eyes and a smile as she's seeing him off. I think they just wanted to give a little extra context to the scene here for the anime to drive home the feeling that she's experiencing of her son growing up. So here's where the manga and anime diverge completely. Now, I know I said no manga spoilers, but it's going to be hard to talk about the changes here without spoiling a bit. I'll put a timestamp on the screen for you to skip to avoid any manga spoilers. But the scene is something that I feel like should have happened in the anime already. Okay, so in the anime we have a scene where Izumi is walking Shikimori home. We have this little bit here where she's teasing him about sleeping, and then they talk about what movie they want to see next. The dialogue is partially pulled from the post-chapter art of chapter 4, where Izumi mentions what kind of movies he likes, but other than that, this scene is original to the anime. Now for what happens in the manga. We go straight to Izumi and Shikimori at the doorstep of her house. Izumi is thanking her for a birthday present she gave him, and we have Shikimori teasing him about falling asleep, which was in the walk home in the anime. Then, the next panel, turn back now if you don't want potential anime spoilers. I mean it, you got like 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, we get this forehead kiss, and Shikimori telling Izumi she loves him. Kinda wish that this had been at the end of episode 3, honestly. We already know these two are in love, so I don't know why they would necessarily be holding on to this scene for later in the anime, as there are far spicier scenes coming our way. So there we have it, episodes 2 and 3 down. There's honestly more to talk about for episode 3 than I originally thought, so we might have to be back to only doing 1 episode next time. I already have a lot to talk about for episode 4, so it may end up being a standalone video. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.